Greetings and welcome back to another episode of QUEUE Points, the podcast. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegate III. Good evening, good folks.
In case you didn't know what that spells Q Points podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. Jay Ray, how's it going, brother?
Listen, I am great. I got hometown Chester, PA artist Brandy Wells on the wall behind me for those people that are joining audio. And I'm feeling real good. It's been a busy week. It's been a great week. I am still recovering from the fitness factor. So so I'm good. Sir Daniel, how you doing?
I'm fine. I'm fantastic. I'm in desperate need of a haircut and something to do with my beard. But other than that, I'm doing well. This is Friday Eve. We're close to another weekend, and we are on the precipice of another exciting episode of Q Points. But before we get into all of that, J-Ray, please let the listener know exactly what they can do to be in that number and to be a part of the Q Points Nation.
Yo, so you all are already doing the most amazing thing. If you are listening or you are watching, wherever you are, keep doing that. That's really important. That is the best way to support the show is just by checking us out. If you want to go a step further, make sure that you subscribe wherever you are. So if you're just listening to Q Points, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if there's a notification button, hit that too. Share the show with your friends. So many people discover Q Points because folks share the show with them. So do us a solid, share it with your friends and family. And you can go a step further. You can join Q Points and become a subscriber by visiting our website at qpoints.com and clicking the subscribe button. You can shop our store at store.qpoints.com. And another free thing that you can do is you can join our mailing list at magazine.qpoints.com.
You heard the man. Follow instructions. Don't lose the context. We are about to have a very frank and fun discussion on, like you said, one of the iconic members of your pantheon of soul singers, J. Ray's personal pantheon of soul singers, Mr. Teddy Pendergrass. And I can't help but think about a couple weeks ago when the world got its when we all collectively moaned in delight when we found out that Usher Raymond will be headlining the Super Bowl halftime show, because we all agree, those of us in our age group, people 10 to 20 years younger than us, and even people older than us, J. Ray, can all agree that Usher Raymond is the epitome, is the benefactor of the work and the energy that Teddy Pendergrass has telegraphed into the world of what it means to be a male R&B soul singer.
Yeah.
Usher has the chops, the vocal ability. Usher can dance. Usher can roller skate and dance and sing at the same time. Usher is a bona fide sex symbol.
Yep.
And so we would not have an Usher if we did not start off with a Teddy Pendergrass. And I think it's very important that we discuss him for that matter, because a lot of times, men are left out of the conversation. Black men are left out of the conversation, the vocals conversation about who's made cultural impacts when it comes to Black music. And so actually this is the first in a series of brothers that we're going to be discussing in these next few episodes of Q Points. But Teddy Pendergrass, J. Ray, When you think of a Teddy Pendergrass, why is he still important?
So Teddy is important because one, he embodied soul music
Mm-hmm.
um in kind of its purest form. Like soul um brings in all of those things. You get a little bit of gospel, you get a little bit of jazz, of course you get some R&B in there. And Teddy had all of that. Not only that though, to your point a second ago, Teddy was also an entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
So this man had this magnetic personality that would walk out onto these stages and literally, this is the Teddy was the man that had the women throwing their panties at him. This is a real thing. Bras and panties would land on the stage because this man embodied sex. But not only did he embody it, he was able to back it up with all of his tremendous talent. So I think it's important that we talk about Teddy in today's marketplace because voices like his and the other men that we're going to talk about were once on the radio. They are nowhere to be found today. These these uh really really deep baritone powerful growly voices, and it's missing. Like it's literally a missing link. There is a missing link on radio today, in particular, contemporary black music radio, in this type of voice being lifted up as an important one. We just don't have it. And so I think it's important because there are men out there that do sing like Teddy and probably are like, there's no room for me. But we have to remind them there is space and we have to make that space because Teddy was one of those dudes.
You're absolutely right. It's so funny, as you guys know. Jay, matter of fact, Jay recently was here in Atlanta, and he got to come back to my spot and check me out on a Sunday evening at Rocksteady
Mm-hmm.
for the R&B and the slow jams. You know, Jay, I keep Teddy Pendergrass in my repertoire, especially for a Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be very mindful, or I'm very selective of when I put a Teddy Pendergrass in the mix, simply because the reaction, J Ray, there are some people who visibly get uncomfortable.
Really?
I see people visibly get uncomfortable because they feel like Teddy Pendergrass, or this is just me trying to read people's reactions and their body language. I believe they feel like Teddy Pendergrass should only exist within the realms of their personal bedroom or when things are being played.
Right.
Now, Teddy definitely needs to be played in your bedroom. That's
Mm-hmm.
the kind of music that was made. But I also think that he created songs that transcend that. You know, "Wake Up Everybody" is a song that's not a bedroom song by any
No.
means. That's a song that uplifts and inspires people. And so I think, to your point about his voice and how his voice takes up a room,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people because we're not used to it anymore, it makes them uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know if it's too assertive, because of the climates that we've endured over the past few years about how men assert themselves
Mm-hmm.
in our society. So I think maybe voices like Teddy Pendergrass aren't favorable anymore because people have gotten away or are very cautious about how men assert themselves in these spaces, vocally. And I by no means am I an apologist for for men who are absolute dickheads.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not apologizing for them. I'm not one of those people that's pro, you know, masculinity is being
Mm-hmm.
taken away from. We're not those Hotep brothers like that. We're not on that wavelength. However, I do think that there might be some correlation. There might be some reason correlation between the two as to why we don't necessarily embrace men with voices like that anymore, or they're commercially just not made to be consumed like they used to be.
Mm. That is something I had not considered. Thank you so much for that. And I'm glad you mentioned Wake Up Everybody, Sir Daniel, because I think as we think of Teddy Pendergrass as a member, like when we think of Wake Up Everybody, we think of it as a Teddy Pendergrass song, and then you have to remember that it's not.
So
Like
that's a Harold Melvin.
it's a Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes song. And so I think one, I think that song is really interesting because of course Teddy credits that song with being why he ended up leaving Harold Melvin in the Blue Notes, because he sang Wake Up Everybody at the time when Teddy was a part of Harold Melvin in the Blue Notes. Harold Melvin was making all the money. Harold was taking all of them dudes' money. Meanwhile, Teddy was singing all the leads. So people assumed that Teddy Pendergrass was Harold Melvin because Teddy was singing all the leads. But Harold Melvin was, of course, the producer and the man who put the group together and like the mastermind behind the group. But Teddy said that he sang Wake Up Everybody and was like, I needed to take my own advice because I am not making the money that I should be making, staying in hotels while this dude is staying in the Beverly Wilshire, and I need to go out and strike out on my own, right? And so, but that illustrates so two things. One, Teddy was really important. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes spontaneously just ended pretty much when Teddy Pendergrass left the group. So what ended up happening is Teddy leaves Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Gamble and Huff is like, we can't do nothing with Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes if Teddy Pendergrass is not in the group. Like, what are you going to do? Like, it's bad business not having Teddy Pendergrass as part of this. So Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes did. So then all the other Blue Notes leave. Harold did like one last album, and by 1977, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes was no more because Teddy Pendergrass was the foundation of that group. So this man, this singular voice, became so impactful that the group that he was a member of couldn't even continue without him, right? So there's that aspect of it. But then there's also that aspect of that old adage of what we talk about in the music industry. We just put out that clip about Sylvia Robinson on our socials. That idea of that old music industry, I mean, music industry, period, it's not old, just took advantage. Just took advantage of their artists so much. And it was that taking advantage of artists that ran Teddy off. Teddy would have probably stayed in Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes if he was making a good group income and group of money and could live his life, but he left because he wasn't getting paid.
But you know what? Good for us that
Good
he
for
left,
us.
because we benefited from Teddy making that split. And when I know we think about Teddy Pendergrass, we think about the slow jams, and we think about music to get you in the mood for love making and one-on-one time. But not for nothing, J-Ray.
Bops.
Teddy Pendergrass was also had, not only was his voice smooth and seductive, but it was also very commanding.
Yeah.
And it was the type of commanding voice that you need that really works for dance music.
Yeah.
And in particularly what Gamble and Huff was doing in the mid 70s was on the coattails, the very beginning of disco and house music.
Yeah.
And you have shared with me on numerous occasions your theory about Harold, about Teddy Pendergrass being our very first disco star.
Absolutely. I am a firm believer. This is a hill I will die on. Teddy Pendergrass is the first disco star. We often will prop up Donna Summer, and she deserves. Listen, she deserves.
Totally.
But before Donna, it was what Gamble and Huff, just like you mentioned, what Gamble and Huff was doing, particularly with Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. So Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff have talked about the fact of Teddy was such a powerhouse of a vocalist. He challenged them. So they were often writing songs that Teddy could sing, and Teddy was a really complicated singer because of the power of his voice. So The Love I Lost, I think most people know this, but for those who don't know, The Love I Lost is considered to be the first kind of proto disco song. So that song was released on Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes' second album. And Teddy Pendergrass is, of course, singing lead on this song called The Love I Lost. And but what happens even after that is really interesting. So you have Teddy's voice coming over these speakers, right? Over this 4/4. That's the thing, right? Gamble and Huff, they was writing this music, so it was like soul music, but it was sped up faster than what other people were doing, and it was set to this 4/4 beat, right? Let me tell you something. Another hill I will die on. Is that Teddy Pendergrass's version, the original version of Don't Leave Me This Way. I love Miss Thelma Houston. Listen, what Motown did with that song was absolutely gorgeous. But that Teddy Pendergrass version of Don't Leave Me This Way is the definitive version of that song. Go and play it. It's Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Don't Leave Me This Way. Teddy Pendergrass is on the leads on that joint. It's nuts how pleading. So the man is aching. Baby, he's down up in that. He's telling this woman, don't leave him like this, okay? And he is singing to the gods about this experience. And so, yeah, Teddy Pendergrass is absolutely, in my opinion, the true first disco star.
There are two types of people in the world. Those who complain about the state of today's music and those who dig. I'm Jason Randall Smith, and I invite you to check out Radio B-Sides, Both Sides of the Surface, a music podcast championing the work of independent artists from around the way to around the world. With a primary focus on Creative Commons licensed music, think of this show as a never-ending virtual crate dig through a parallel universe of online labels, seeking out the hip-hop, soul, jazz, funk, and electronic music gems that are often hiding in plain sight, and hopefully demystifying the world of Creative Commons along the way, one song at a time. You can find Radio B-Sides wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, visit the website at bsots.com. That's BSOTS.com.
Well, you know, my favorite song by Teddy's is, I always tell you this, the more I get, the more I want. You talking about, that song is what I love about a good song. It starts off kind of unassuming. It starts off really, kind of not timid, but very welcoming, and just a quick bass line, doom, 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 doom. And then you build up, and Teddy keeps singing, and then he becomes more and more assertive. And there's this one point where he lets off this howling scream, and then the music kind of trails off and breaks down. Literally, an experience, a journey when you listen to the song. I appreciate it because I've heard what DJs do, how they use that song and they transition into a full out house music set after you leave that song, because it opens you up. The drums open you up. And when I say open you up, I mean open up your chakras, open you up as a person, open up your mind, and open you up to receive the higher BPMs and to receive, you go from that 4/4 to a full out, going into a full out 8 count on the dance floor, because that's what it's meant to do to you. But yeah, and Teddy Pendergrass did that. We always talk about the women vocal powerhouses of dance music, but Teddy Pendergrass, as you demonstrated, is clearly unsung in that realm, and we here at Q Points are not having it. We got to tell you.
To that point, thank you so much for mentioning the spiritual aspect of the whole thing. Because the other thing I think it is to note when we think about Teddy in that those 5 years, like, so from 1977 to like 1981, Teddy was like bam, 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 bam. Like every album was a thing. I think all 5 of those albums, so his debut solo album to 1981's It's a Time for Love, that's true. All of them are platinum records, right? He was just killing. Because what Gamble and Huff did is they basically said, yeah, if there's no Teddy, I can't do Harold Melvin, but they did sign Teddy Pendergrass to a solo deal. I bring this up because the other thing that was spiritual, I don't know what was in the walls of Sigma Sound where these albums were recorded, but let me tell you something. All of these records were recorded at Sigma Sound Studios in Philadelphia. I actually trained in music under Al Albert Jr., who also worked at Sigma Sound. One of the boards, the board that we had in our main studio, I think that came from Alpha. Anyway, point is, Sigma was really important. And there was something in the walls of that building, because there are so many hits that came out of Sigma Sound Studios in Philadelphia, that it was just in the walls there. And I'm sure Teddy left his imprint, just like, if you go in here, you're going to get a little Teddy up on your vocal, because he left it there. And that's really important. Like, clearly that space mattered.
And to your point about Teddy's essence, you're absolutely right. There is, and that's why, and you'll hear the discussion we had with Kipper Jones at our live recording about the toll, the physical toll, the entertaining, and there's a difference between being just a singer and being an entertainer. There's a physical toll that it takes on a person's body, on the host's body, right? Because it's a gift. There's a physical toll that it takes place on the host's body, because they're giving away some of their essence each and every single time that they perform, whether it's in the studio or on stage. So, and with that being said, I wonder if people like a Teddy Pendergrass, Michael Jackson's, people like that open themselves up physically to give us their gift, if that is the conduit to the pain that they experience. Because Teddy, like Michael and like other people like him that give so much, battle depression, suicidal ideations, drug abuse, and then of course, leading up to that fatal, not fatal, but leading up to a very life-changing accident that completely put his life on a whole new road. And so I'm wondering, this is a theory of mine, like giving of yourself that much opens you up I think, to those experiences. And I think it's why people like a Beyonce are so closed off and so private, because they want to be careful not to entertain other energies or let other, or entertain other things like that coming into their life, especially someone, if you're a parent and you've got kids that depend on you, you want to protect yourself against that because you want to be there for them. But, for a man like Teddy Pendergrass experiencing this newfound fame, because he stepped from behind the Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. He stepped from that and immediately steps into his greatness and is bombarded. I mean, bombarded by adoration and lust from people that are attending these shows, buying these records, that there's only so much money and drugs and alcohol can numb. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot. I can only imagine what he was pushing through.
Yeah.
As a person in those moments where he was alone in that mansion. He's alone with that Rolls Royce.
That infamous Rolls Royce. Right.
And the furs and everything.
The furs. It's interesting. So what I gather from there's a documentary about Teddy Pendergrass called If You Don't Know Me. Definitely, if y'all haven't seen it, definitely check it out. What I gather from Teddy's years, he liked being a star. Like, there are some people, who I think is like that? I think Cardi B is like that, where she just kind of like likes being a star. Like it's a thing that she's good at. I think Teddy, there would be these moments, and this was interesting too, because I had never seen white folks do this like they did it with Teddy. But there were like lots of interviews where like these white folks would be like, you're a superstar. Like, you, sir? I'm sitting next to Teddy Pendergrass, and if you don't know who that is, he's a superstar. Like, and these white folks would say this to him, and Teddy would sit there and he would like, well, that's kind of true. Like he was kind of like with it, but also Teddy understood his power. He understood the power that he had over people. So one of the things that was also really interesting is Teddy's manager was like, listen, Teddy, when I first met Teddy, Teddy is like, to see him in pictures is one thing, but in person, he's incredibly handsome. He knows it. He's also incredibly sexual. He knows that too. And so he's very charming. So he, as this tall, big, beautiful black man, understood there was a power in that. So his manager was fully capable and able to pivot him off of the Chitlin circuit. Because that's the other thing. If he had stayed with Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, he would have just stayed on the Chitlin circuit. His manager was like, no, I'm just going to book you in white. I'm going to book you with white promoters, and we're going to go over there. And that's how Teddy became a superstar. So he loved being a celebrity. He loved being a superstar. He kind of craved that attention. But that's the thing. When the accident happens, he was 31 when that happened.
God.
He was really young. When this life-changing, when your life is standing up on stage, gyrating with smoke coming off of you because you are sweating and you're so hot, to I am now paralyzed. That was life-changing. So yeah, there was a moment. So his family, his son talked about this, as well as his therapist. So Teddy's therapist talked about, whose therapist is also paraplegic, talked about Teddy had decided that he wanted to die, right? And was having a meeting with his family to let them know, hey, this is what I want to do, right? And the doctor did something phenomenal where he allowed Teddy to hear what his family would have to say about him had he decided to end his life. And he decided to live. But
Mm.
it got really serious. And so what that got me thinking about though is Black men and kind of the stuff that we deal with, right? That we don't always know how to get through, and we push through. And sometimes we have people in our lives that help us. Fortunately, Teddy did. He had found a therapist that helped him. You know what I'm saying? And he had
Right.
family that was willing to take the journey with him through this very difficult period. And it just reminded me how important it is for us as Black men to, one, be honest. Teddy was honest with where he was in that moment after this accident, and had enough room to change his mind and had people there to support. And that's important for us. We need that.
We absolutely do. And I'm happy that, you know, even though sometimes it might sound like the thing to say and the thing to talk about, it's still on people's lips and in the forefront of their minds about receiving help, about welcoming in other people to help you sort through the things that you're dealing with. And so, yeah, I think I wonder what Teddy would think of the landscape, the music landscape today. I wonder what he would think of his predecessors, the people that have come after him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the predecessors, but people that have come after him. You know, we already talked about Usher at the top of this discussion, but does Teddy Pendergrass have any other sons in this music landscape?
I think a Tank. I think Tank is definitely a son of Teddy Pendergrass.
And a great musician. Tank is a really good musician, period.
Yeah. I really put him. Actually, those are like two that really do come to mind. Definitely Usher. When I think of like showman too.
Yeah, the showmanship, the sex
The
appeal,
sex appeal.
because that's a big part of it also.
Mm-hmm.
You have those. What's the young man? Gosh, there's a couple of those young men that they've appeared in a lot of television shows and movies.
Oh, like Luke.
Luke, yes, Luke James.
Luke James. Yes, and Lucky Day, I think, is another one.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. For whatever reason, they're right there, but they're not a household name just yet. You know what I'm saying? They're there. They've got the goods.
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't think like Jarquise is cool, but I don't think he's lacking, the height,
Stop.
the inflections. I mean, it really is part of the package. It really is, and it's just a thing that you just can't. You either have it or you don't, and that is a thing that's marketed and packaged. You will never see Jacquees packaged with his shirt open, on a bearskin rug. It's not because he's gonna look like he's about to be diapered.
Right. Yeah, I think, and to that point, actually, it would be so unique if there was someone on the scene that kind of moved the way that Teddy moved. Because when you look back at that old footage, it's interesting. Like, one, there was mostly women in the audience. Two, there was like a really diverse audience. Like, it was a lot of women from a lot of different nationalities, you know what I'm saying, in the audience. And he's up there on this stage just kind of commanding this band and like gyrating back and forth and singing very powerfully and seductively. That would be so interesting. I don't know. I would be like, that's peculiar. Who is this person?
Right. But I'm thinking back to when we, I think it was last year, we did an episode where we found this picture of this wonderful picture of Teddy Pendergrass, Nick Ashford, Valerie Simpson, Roberta Flack backstage in a cipher, passing the blunt around. And we just wanted to know what was in Teddy's man bag.
What?
First of all, it's because
I think it's a
believe
Louis.
it's a Louis, it's a LV. You know, he's got the gold chains, you know, the silk shirt and the pants to match, and it's just, you know, it's giving. It's a lot. And we got a lot of answers. Remember that episode? We got a lot of answers from a dime bag to probably like
I think it's a pistol in there. I think a pistol's in there.
The gat is definitely in there. The blicky is definitely in there. And there's probably a razor too, a straight edge. Because, you know, brothers back then used straight edges too.
Yes.
And did I mention Coke? There's definitely Coke in there.
Oh, absolutely. They look like they having a good old time. Yes.
A fantastic time. So, you know, when you see this video, if you see the video or you see this picture, we're going to have it on our socials as well. I just want you to think and just leave a comment on what you think is in that bag. What is in Teddy P's man bag in this picture as we wrap up this episode? Because I kind of want to hang out with them, J. Ray. I want to be in that studio.
Oh, listen, they had a wonderful session. You can see the empty chairs there and the mics up. They probably were doing it probably was like strings or something like that because the mics was real high. So they probably just, you know, finished a session. I wonder what it was. I would be really curious. We'll definitely ask on our socials if anyone knows what session this was. We need to ask Miss Roberta Flack or Miss Valerie Simpson. Miss Val, what was this session? We're going to ask Miss Val and see if she responds to let us know what they were recording.
What were y'all recording? So as we wrap up this episode, you know, and thinking about Teddy Pendergrass and what he's given to the culture, I'm just super happy that we got to experience it.
We did.
And we get to reminisce about it. And again, like I said, you got to stay tuned because we're going to be talking about some other brothers who kind of are in the same lane. And you'll see what we're talking about. But they really did a thing when they were around and they were actively contributing to the culture.
Yeah.
So J. Ray, as we wrap up, let's remind the folks how they can keep in contact with us.
Absolutely.
And
so, you know, y'all do the things. Please, thank y'all so much for being here. And that's part of it, right? So if you are listening or you are watching, that's the main way to stay connected. Share the show with your friends and family. Those are two absolutely free ways to support Q Points. You can also join our mailing list. That's another free way to do it. And if you want to go a step further, visit our website, qpoints.com, and you can subscribe and become a member and help us out over in Q Points land. But this has been awesome. I'm glad we got a chance to just kind of gush over Teddy Pendergrass a little bit. There is so much more to be discussed. Like everybody discusses the slow jams. We know them all. It's okay. But yeah, I'm so glad we just got a chance to spend some time discussing this really important figure. I don't know that we give Teddy and men like him with those kind of voices enough. And so we're going to do more of that on this show.
Yep, that's exactly what we do here on Q Points, the podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. J. Ray, what do I always say? In this life, you can have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
My name is J. Ray, y'all.
And this has been Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. We will see you on the next go round. Peace.
Peace.
Now turn them off!